Hey everybody, it's GGB and I'm back for college basketball upset of the day, Sunday edition. I got it. I got the dub, guys. I did it. I got Tennessee right, which means I don't have to do a dare this weekend. Let's freaking go. Let's go over the three upsets we actually got yesterday. We got one in the Big 12 when TCU took down number 15 Iowa State. Iowa State fell to 2-5, which by the way is now tied for last place in the Big 12 with Oklahoma and Kansas State. Kansas State is honestly probably the best of those three. Iowa State's probably the best. Kansas State's a legitimately solid team, though. Just has had a bad luck this week, but I think they have a real chance at making a run at this thing. They're a scary team. If I had to pick a team to play in the Big 12, it would not be Kansas State, that's for sure. But TCU got a big win yesterday over a top 15 team in Iowa State. They moved to 3-2. That's fourth in the Big 12, by the way, only behind Kansas, Baylor, and Texas Tech, all top 25 teams, and ahead of a top 25 team in Texas. So that's what happened yesterday in the Big 12. The top really didn't change. It was going to change if Kansas State had been able to pull it out against Kansas, but unfortunately crumbled near the end. We got one upset in the Missouri Valley where Missouri State beat Loyola, Illinois. Not a big change there outside of the fact that Northern Illinois lost, so they're no longer tied for first place. Missouri State has sole possession of first place, but Loyola, Illinois still has first place. But for now, remember, Loyola, Illinois now sits at 5-1. Missouri State sits at 6-2 on a 4-game winning streak. So watch out for Missouri State down the stretch. And then in the Southeastern Conference, we ended up with Tennessee upsetting LSU. Tennessee moves to 4-3, tied now with still Alabama and Arkansas for 5th place. Season was to end today. Tennessee would be the number 16 with Arkansas having a better record overall than them, but that's just because they've played one more game. This is going to be interesting down the stretch here. I don't think Arkansas, Tennessee, or Alabama, any of them have a legitimate chance of going and being the top seed in the SEC, but they could climb up there. Remember, only half a game behind Texas A&M and Mississippi State, and only a full game behind Kentucky. So the SEC is going to be getting interesting down the stretch. So let's talk about the 4 games we got today. 11 o'clock, we got Butler, which is at 9-9, taking on number 21 Providence. Providence sits at 15-2. Providence favored 9.5 points on FS1. 12 o'clock at Northwestern, which is at 9-7, traveling to number 4 Purdue, which is at 15-3. Purdue favored by 13 points on the Big Ten Network. And at 1 o'clock, 2 more actually. 1 o'clock, we got number 20 Xavier, which is at 14-3, traveling to Marquette, which is at 13-6. Xavier favored by 2 points on FS1. And at 2 o'clock, we got number 3 Arizona, which is at 15-1, traveling to Cal, which hit at 9-9. Arizona favored by 13.5 on the Pac-12 network. So let's start with the Big East for a second. We got 2 games going on there. We got obviously Butler playing Providence and Xavier playing Marquette. So in the Big East, obviously, if you were following basketball yesterday, Villanova got a big win over Georgetown to end a losing streak for them. But Villanova with that win moves them to 7-2. If Providence was to lose the game to Butler, remember, if they win it, they're still in first place. If they lose this game, they move to 5-2, which would drop them into second place. They would still be ahead, but then you also have to worry about the fact that Xavier also plays today. They sit at 4-2 with a win, would move to 5-2, and then you would be tied for second place instead of having sole possession of first place. So if you are a Xavier fan, you are actually watching the Butler-Providence game and hoping for a Butler win. You're praying for a Butler win. You're really following that score very closely because you could end up being tied for second place if you are to pull off. If Butler is to pull off the upset. Butler with a win would move to 3-5, which would pass St. John's 2-4. Butler again has not won for the past 3 straight games. They have not been playing well as of late and has the second longest losing streak in the Big East, only behind Georgetown, who has a 6-game losing streak, by the way. So obviously, if Butler is to win that game, they move to 3-5 and are able to pass St. John's. With the loss, they fall to 2-6. Not going to fall anywhere, but a little significantly farther away from St. John's. Then you got the Xavier Marquette game. Xavier with a win moves to 5-2. Would break the tie for third place and possibly get into second place as a tie for second place. As I said before, if Providence does end up losing to Butler. Now Marquette, on the other hand, with a win, could move to 6-3. At the very least, would move past Xavier, who would then fall to 4-3. But 6 out of 9 games would be a 66% win percentage. Now, UConn and Creighton both sit at 4-2, and that's a 66% win percentage as well. So if Marquette is able to pull it off against Xavier, they would have the same win percentage. So I believe they would be tied there. I don't know I think it's different if it's like a 500, right? So like if you're 4-4, that's obviously a better record than 3-3. But I don't know if 6-3 is a better record than 4-2. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know how that tiebreaker would work out with UConn and Creighton. But you would at least, I think you would probably get into a tie for third place if you are to win today. So if you're Providence, you're obviously watching your own game, but also hoping for a Marquette upset over Xavier today. Then we move on to the Big Ten. The Big Ten it changed a little bit this week. Obviously, Michigan State takes the lead in the Big Ten. Illinois started off the week leading it and is now tied for second place. Purdue is playing Northwestern. With a Purdue win, they would tie for fifth place with Indiana at Rutgers. Indiana obviously on a 2-game winning streak, beat them this week. And Rutgers, on a little bit of slump, they lost this week to Minnesota. So a win here today for Purdue would put them at 5-3 and in a tie for fifth place with the Hoosiers and the Scarlet Knights. A loss here for Purdue would move them to 4-4, and suddenly you fall into a tie with Iowa for seventh place instead of having sole possession of seventh place. So either with a win, you tie for fifth. With a loss, you tie for seventh. So obviously not ideal there. Obviously also, though, if you are to lose this game and the season were to end today, Purdue would have the tiebreaker over Iowa based on sole better record than they do. But regardless, Purdue kind of would love this victory to get back into this Big Ten picture, right? Then you got Northwestern sitting here. Northwestern sitting in a unfavorable position for them. They're tied right now for who are they tied? They're tied for 11th right now, but if the season ended today, they would be the 12 seed. Obviously, not a good spot to be because you'd be playing Maryland, which Maryland obviously just showed this weekend they have the talent to be an elite team, beating a very highly ranked Illinois team. So with a win today for Northwestern, you would get yourself out of the tie, and suddenly you would enter a tie for 10th place with Penn State, who is on a losing streak right now. Northwestern also on a losing streak, lost their last game, but not as big as Penn State. So obviously you would love, if you were to win this game, you would be, technically speaking, if the seed ended today, the 10 seed. So you would enter the tie with Penn State for that spot. That's all that would happen in the Big Ten. And let's go to the last one. That's the Pac-12 we got going on. In the Pac-12, obviously Arizona sits at 5-0, but UCLA is right behind them on their tails at a 5-1 record. Remember, Oregon and Washington play today, so they're going to be sitting at 5. One of them's going to be sitting at 5-2. The other one's going to be sitting at 4-3, right? So with a win for Arizona, obviously you stay in first place. With a loss for Arizona, you move to 5-1, which technically speaking, if the season ended today, you would have the number 1 spot, but you would also, not ending today, it would be a tie for first place with the Bruins. A win today for Cal would move them to 3-5, which would pass Arizona State at 2-4, I believe. 2-4 is a 33% win percentage. 3-5 would be a 37% win percentage, so barely better, but barely is good enough. So with a win for Cal, you would move out of third to last place, or in other words, 10th place, and you could move up to 9th place, which would passing the Sun Devils. With a loss, really doesn't affect them that much. You fall at 2-6. Again, not as bad as Oregon State's 1-6. You would stay in the spot that you are, unless Oregon State plays today. They do not. They play the next game they play is next Saturday. So, again, a while to go for this Oregon State squad. But, again, so not a big deal for Cal with a loss. You're not losing anything, but you do have something to gain with a win. So that's what you're hoping here for Cal if you could pull off the massive upset 13.5-point dogs today. So who do I think has the best chance of winning? I know it's the cliche answer. I know it's the answer everyone was expecting me to put, especially considering I put in a comment yesterday for a guy who had a question. I got to go with Marquette. I have to. Marquette's playing at an insanely good level right now. In my opinion, I don't know, they have the longest win streak in the Big East, having a 5-game win streak, and it's just, to me, they look like the best team in the Big East. Now, I think there's an argument to make Providence the best team in the Big East. I think Villanova might be, but I think Marquette is definitely one of the best. Xavier definitely is up there, so that's why I think this could be a really close game. But, I mean, if you're going to have to pick an upset, I feel like the Golden Eagles is a prime opportunity to do so. I love the Golden Eagles here to pull off the upset. Give me them to win this game and get me to 5 points.